I am about to present you with the coolest movie trailer you will ever watch. A girl stands in a prison office, picking up her things after being released. The guard morosely lists her belongings as she glances to the television next to her, which plays a bleak news report of the depressing world she lives in. As she collects her items, she notices a strange pin lying on the counter. When she calls the guard to tell him that she's never seen that pin before, she flashes into a golden field upon touching it, an experience that no one else in the office appears to have shared. We zoom in on the pin as it lies on the floor after the girl dropped it, while a voiceover asks us to imagine a place where we can actually change the world. The girl picks up the pin again, tentatively but excitedly, and she's transported once more to the golden wheat fields. She looks into the horizon and sees the outline of a futuristic city, glowing invitingly in the distance. The trailer ends with the audience being asked if we'd like to go there, and we fade to the title of the movie. And by golly, I want to. Too bad I forgot about this movie right after I saw the trailer and didn't catch it in theaters. Actually, I think a lot of people had the same experience because the movie didn't do as well as Disney wanted it to when it premiered. Then like 8 years later, my mom asked me about that trailer with the girl in the pin, and I realized I had never actually watched the movie. I had just seen the trailer. So we sat down to watch the film, and after having seen it, yeah, maybe I should have stuck with the trailer, because now I lie awake, haunted by the jumbled mess I just watched. Tomorrowland is a movie with a glorious foundation. What if we could awaken the spark of creativity in every dormant dreamer in the world, and build a place where we could make all of those dreams come true? Doesn't that sound beautiful? Unfortunately, this so-called dream is buried under an absolutely vile mess of a plot, to the point where it corrupts the very message it was trying to spread. And I love its message. I love what this movie wanted to be. But what it actually became, well, let's find out together, shall we? Join me as I walk you through the golden fields of imagination, reaching utopias that hide more ghosts than they would like you to know. Is there something that can be salvaged from this mess? Or should this movie have been left as a promising glimpse into the future, with nothing else but a trailer to feed our dreams? Can we make any sense out of this chaos? Grab on to your freebie hallucination pins and let's find out. I want to talk about Tomorrowland. I want to preface this by saying that, as a whimsical adventure film, this movie is fine. It's got nice sets, cool characters, an honestly great soundtrack, fun chase and fight sequences. It's fine. It's competently made and will keep you entertained. The problems arise when you start to think about what you just watched, and I'm the champion of overdoing that. What is this movie about then? We start off with Casey, a teenage girl who has no regard for the government, as she invades a federal construction site to mess up some cranes. On the next day, we find out it's because they are taking down a rocket launch site, and when they are done doing it, her father, a NASA engineer, will be out of a job. You see, Casey is an optimistic dreamer. At least, the movie really wants you to believe so. Ever since she was a kid, she's had big dreams, and she has kept those dreams alive, even while the rest of the world keeps blasting her with cautionary tales and speech after dreadful speech of how we are all doomed. After being caught damaging federal property, we get the scene we saw in the teaser trailer, where Casey finds a pin she has never seen before in her belongings, and when she touches it, she sees a wonderful vision of a whole new world. This Frutiger-era dreamscape is Tomorrowland, a world that seems to have been plucked out of those memes about a perfect society. You've got your jetpacks and your hovering monorails, your floating structures, your casual space travel, amazing feats of technology that seem so close but are still so far. Tomorrowland exists as a parallel dimension. Even though it looks like a futuristic city, it's not actually the future. It exists in current times, just as our usual world, but it's in a pocket of reality that is inaccessible to us common people. The only citizens who can access Tomorrowland for real are the so-called dreamers, people who are particularly creative or otherwise talented, and who have been recruited to join this utopian society. In fact, Tomorrowland was built for dreamers by dreamers, great thinkers and geniuses who were secretly running a whole different society in a parallel dimension, and who only then started recruiting equally brilliant members. As she basks in the glory of the city of her dreams, Casey only then notices the pin has a timer on the back, and as it runs out, the vision is cut off. She tries to find more information about the pin and eventually runs into Athena, the robot who gave her the pin in the first place. And okay, listen. The movie has a whole thing with how Athena isn't technically a robot. She's an audio animatronic, a name that you might recognize because it's a specific kind of animated machine pioneered by Walt Disney's engineers. And here's the deal. The movie wants to convince you that Disney's creations are themselves part of this futuristic cityscape that us normies just can't access. And I couldn't care less about it. I'll go into more detail later, but for now I'll just continue to call Athena a robot. Casey begs Athena to take her back to the world that she saw in her pin vision, but Athena reverses the request and asks for Casey's help. Because while the world she saw is real, it might not be for much longer. Athena takes Casey to see Frank, a man who once belonged to Tomorrowland but was kicked out because he built some sort of device he shouldn't have. On regular Earth, Frank became a recluse who built an entire setup in his house to watch some sort of doomsday broadcast. Images of wars, explosions, and natural disasters play over and over again on the screens that surround him. That is, until Casey shows up, and the sky in one of the screens flickers blue for just a second. This is enough to convince Frank that he must take Casey to Tomorrowland, so he joins forces with Athena to find the rocket that will do just that. There's a lot of action scenes and freaky tech and being chased by killer robots that I'm skipping over, but just know that getting to Tomorrowland isn't an easy journey. As we arrive in Tomorrowland, our heroes meet Governor Nix, a character who might be new to this video, but who's actually quite famous to the people in the film. You see, when I said at the beginning that the movie starts off with Casey, I lied. The movie actually starts with Frank, going over the events that change his childhood forever. When Frank was a young boy, he invented a jetpack and attempted to present it to Nix. Nix questions what would be the purpose of a jetpack, and Frank explains that the jetpack itself is its purpose. He claims that if he saw someone flying around on a jetpack, he would become inspired, and that inspiration would lead him to change the world. Nix isn't impressed by this explanation, but Athena is, so she recruits Frank by giving him a pin, much like she did with Casey. The pin now classifies Frank as a certified dreamer, and allows Frank to gain access to Tomorrowland, where he begins a new life, until he creates something so terrible that causes him to be banished. This invention is a giant tower that harnesses a special kind of particle, which allows a machine to project images from any point in the past or the future. And when Frank tried to look into the future, what he saw was only doom and destruction. The Earth, as Frank discovered, is fated for catastrophe. No matter which way he looked at it or which regions he explored, there was no avoiding it. All those years, the doomsday clock just kept ticking closer and closer to its end, That is, until he met Casey, who firmly believes the future can be changed. The first person in so long who didn't just give into the supposed disaster of today. The only one left who still dreamed of a better tomorrow. Casey, the ultimate optimist, might just be the key to save us all. Except that's ridiculous. This movie was plagued by a lot of production issues, and it kinda shows. While I was watching it, I was convinced that there was a rejected version of the script somewhere in which Casey was an orphan. She's written like an orphan. You know, the troubled youth who was abandoned by society, taking her frustrations out on government property, getting into trouble with the law. The foster kid who has no real connections and has no trouble dropping everything to go on a life-changing, action-packed, parentless adventure. She even has a hat that she's oddly attached to because she got it from her dad. That's such an orphan trope. She's orphan-coded. Except, no, she's not an orphan. Her dad's still alive. In fact, if you watch the deleted scenes, you'll see a version of the movie in which she had both her dad and her mom, and also a bunch of extended family. In those same deleted scenes, you'll also find a version of Casey that is the opposite of her final personality. A pessimist who has given up just as much as everybody else. The movie keeps going back and forth on what it wants Casey to be. She's supposed to be the ultimate optimist, full of wonder and whimsy, but she doesn't act like it. She has the slouching posture of a moody teen, where the only thing that can be called optimism is her refusal to admit she might be wrong. Her line delivery is off. Most of the time, even when things are going favorably for her, she sounds like she's complaining.
Yeah, I know. You coming or not?
So we blasted into outer space just to get a running start?
I'm sorry. What can I fix?
This sounds spectacular.
There's the scene after Casey and Frank escape from Frank's house because a bunch of evil robots were invading it. So they are launched from Frank's bathroom and land on a nearby lake. And you can hear Casey kind of giggling like this was all a fun little romper. Except during the chase sequence, she was not enjoying herself. And right after the chase sequence, she still looks pretty mad. The only times you hear her laughing are when you can barely see her face, because those giggles were added in post-production. Casey was not directed to laugh. At times, it feels like they recorded a movie where Casey was a pessimist, but changed their minds very late into the game, and had to scramble together to convince us that Casey sees things on the bright side. And when they want to convince you of that, man, are they obnoxious. Casey is the only student questioning her teachers in class as they preach the apocalypse, while her classmates just accept their terrible reality. Casey's the only passenger on the bus applying her creative skills, while everyone else looks lethargic and disinterested. Casey is the one who gives her dad a pep talk when he tells her that he'll be out of a job. They try desperately hard in those key scenes, while the rest of the movie just isn't putting in the effort. But here's the thing. For the moral of this movie to work, Casey should have been a pessimist, because otherwise, things get really messed up. So let's go back to the plot. Casey has a realization regarding the tower. Ever since Frank built it, the tower has been subconsciously broadcasting images of a doomed future into the minds of every citizen on regular Earth. No wonder they can't dream of a better tomorrow when they're being blasted with negativity 24/7. If they want to build a positive future, they need to shut down the tower. Except Governor Nix doesn't want to do that, because the broadcast has always been his plan. You see, at some point, it became clear to the citizens of Tomorrowland that their sister Earth was doomed. Global warming, international conflict, political crisis, and health epidemics were taking them in a terrible direction. So he decided to directly warn the Earth that they were heading for disaster. The problem, according to Nyx, is that Earth then accepted its own disaster, because accepting it was the easy choice. That way, they wouldn't have to change anything about themselves. Nyx doesn't care that Casey is the last optimist in a land of depressed doomscrollers, nor does he want to disable the broadcast. Nyx thinks that the Earth deserves to die. That's bad. That's really bad. And not just bad in a cartoon villain kind of way, this is actually legitimately messed up. Because Tomorrowland is rotten to its core. Tomorrowland is presented as a utopia, an amazing society where humanity's best geniuses were free to apply their creative skills and build every wonderful contraption they dreamed of. In fact, the exact wording is that Tomorrowland is a world
free from politics and bureaucracy, distractions, greed,
implying that those are the things that were holding our earthly geniuses back. So, those geniuses got together and built the world of their dreams, with all the jetpacks and public transportation you could ever need, and instead of using this developed technology to help the Earth, they kept it in Tomorrowland. But don't worry, you could see it too if you wanted. All you need to do is be a super special and smart and creative individual, and they'll invite you to join their mega exclusive secret club. Because you're not like those people who are bored and depressed and think the world is doomed to end in tragedy. You're special. That's why, instead of saving the Earth, you'll join this whole new Earth that we're building from the ground up, away from the one that we destroyed. The whole point of Frank's recruitment was that he believed the main purpose of any invention was inspiring people. Even if his jetpack didn't have an immediate practical purpose, if it inspired someone to build something cool too, it would have fulfilled its true purpose. That's the premise behind the pin too. Get someone to dream of a beautiful tomorrow and they will become inspired to make it actually happen. Except Athena's directives explicitly state that she's supposed to give the pins to dreamers, people who are particularly talented, creative, or determined. Athena gave one to Casey, the last optimist on Earth. Tomorrowland isn't inspiring people. It's finding people who are already inspired and poaching those people away from the planet that they could try to save. That's why Casey should have been a pessimist. If you give a pessimist a pin and they become inspired enough to change their fate, you prove that anyone can save Earth from its miserable future. The optimist does not need the pin to do it. They already believe that it could be done. By giving the pin to an optimist and by constantly claiming that Casey is special and that only she can save us, the movie isn't saying that anyone can fix the Earth. It is saying that it takes a special kind of people to do it. And those people are, in fact, so special that they don't deserve to live in the regular doomed Earth. They get to be part of something amazing, entirely separate from the planet that Tomorrowland has left to die. There's this myth of the great thinker that I think we propagate without even realizing it. This idea that one man, a single solitary figure, is much better than the rest of us, and he'll be the one to do something amazing. Create a rocket ship, revolutionize transport, colonize a different world. A genius who dared to think different from the rest. A dreamer, if you will. And we almost rely on them to make good on their word, because then we'll actually be saved. Except what we don't see is the millions, both in funding and of people, who are backing up this solitary genius. the actual engineers that execute his plans, the thinkers that bring his ideas to action. And we don't see that we are already part of those millions too. Walt Disney did not invent audio animatronics. His employees did. But the movie is more than happy to say that Walt Disney himself was one of these solitary greats. There's a scene in the movie where citizens from Tomorrowland are seen going through a gateway to Earth and taking something from there. The movie doesn't tell us what those objects are, but a deleted scene reveals that they are pieces of art. Sculptures and paintings and other works that Nix wants to save before the planet comes to an end. But those pieces were not created by Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland is not entitled to them, but they feel like they are, because they believe that they are a super special kind of people who is above the rest. They are the colonizers of a new world. And on one hand, yeah, the guy doing this is Nix, the villain of the movie. The movie is saying that this is messed up. Except after the tower is deactivated and Nix is crushed by debris, Casey and Frank take control of Tomorrowland, and they do the exact same thing. They change nothing. They look at this rotten system and they change nothing. That is terrifying. The movie ends with this montage of several pins being delivered to new dreamers, implying that the Earth has way more optimists than we realized, and that Tomorrowland is ready to welcome them and help their dreams become a reality. It's supposed to be inspiring and to make you feel like one of those many new dreamers, being recruited into the City of Wonders. But you're not a dreamer. The movie spent its entire runtime saying that you're not. Tomorrowland is a movie that wants to be inspiring. It wants to say that we are not doomed and that all we need in order to change the world is to imagine it can be changed. What it does say, accidentally or not, is that there's a specific set of people who deserve to be saved, while most of us regular Earthlings should be left behind to rot in the hell of our own creation. And, gee whiz, I just don't think that's very nice. The worst part is, I kinda like this movie. I like it way more for what it could be, but when it works, wow, it really works. I love seeing this imaginative, futuristic society. I really felt Casey's awe in exploring her vision, and I felt the same urgency she did to get back. Athena is obviously my favorite character because I love me a robot with feelings, and her relationship with Frank is not only sweet, but it works both with him as a kid and as an adult. And again, the soundtrack is really great. There is so much to love. The sad part is that all of this is buried under a message that is the complete opposite of what the movie is trying to say. It had everything it needed to be a great film, but it fumbled the delivery so awkwardly I'm not even sure the movie knows how badly it messed up. The world isn't going to be saved by a fraction of people who think they're better than everyone else, let alone by one guy who thinks he is. Even because those people don't want to save us, as in everybody. They just want to save their own, and I'm not into that. Frank believed that the purpose of his invention is the invention itself, for it might inspire someone, and I can only hope my words do the same. If this movie fumbled its delivery and won't transmit the message I wanted it to, it's up to me to pick up the pieces and say it myself. Tomorrowland could have been a great movie, but it isn't. That's okay. We're smart enough to understand where it went wrong. Salvation won't be found in individual geniuses, and dreamers are much less rare than you think. Once again, I believe it was one other Disney movie which, much more wisely, thus said, "We're all in this together." Thank you for watching. Well, hello there. It was very nice of you to watch this video. Special thanks to my beautiful patrons for making videos like these possible. You guys are the super cool pins gifted to me by a robot. If you have enjoyed the video, you can also help me out by clicking the like button, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the notification bell too. You can also follow me on a bunch of different places, such as Blue Sky, the website formerly known as Twitter, and my second channel. The link to all of those things will be in the description. Share this video with your friends if you're feeling extra generous. Feel free to leave a comment down below, especially if it is about how much you love Tomorrowland. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye.
There are two wolves, and they're always fighting. One is
Gay.
the other is
Gay. You are gay.